Hi, my name is Mary Schulteis. I'm the Development Director at Concordia Christian Academy in Tacoma. This is my friend Sheila Larson, who is the Director of Admissions at Concordia Christian Academy. We're really excited to bring you the October 2020 Early Learning Adventure. Sheila is going to get us started by reading a book by Edward Hemingway.
Bad Apple, A Tale of Friendship by Edward Hemingway. Mac was a good apple. He shared his toys with other apples, helped Granny Smith pick up after art class, and loved to dive fearlessly into the watering hole. On a sunny day, Mac could bob for hours. On cloudy days, Mac would search for the perfect pillow of green grass and take a long nap. In his dreams, it was always sunny, but one day, as Mac lay sleeping, it began to rain. Soon, all the little creatures in the earth around him poked their heads out to look for higher ground. Some of them found safety under the large toadstools. Others crawled onto stones and pebbles. But one small worm had another idea. When Mac woke up, he was covered in raindrops, and he wasn't alone. "You won't believe the dream I just had. A funny little worm was tickling me right here. And now I can't seem to get him out of your head. It was you!" And that's how Mac met Will. Will showed Mac how to fly a kite, fly himself, and play in the dirt. He loved making a mess. Mac took his new friend to the watering hole to clean off. He couldn't remember a better day until he took Will to the orchard. "Look at Mac. He's got worms. Mac's a rotten apple." "I'm not rotten, I'm quite sweet, actually." So they left. Will cheered Mac up by reading aloud from some of his favorite novels. He was a bit of a bookworm. Mac liked the adventure stories best. He also liked it when Will finished his sentences for him. "The most exciting part is when the pirates find treasure in the dirt." But the next day, it happened again. "Ha ha, it's the bad apple. Ew, worms!" And no one in the orchard would play with them, not even the crab apples. Bad apple. Crab apples can be so rotten. That night, the two friends sat alone on the grass without saying a word. In the morning, Will was nowhere to be found. Mac went back to playing with his orchard friends, diving fearlessly into the watering hole and painting in Granny Smith's class. But nothing was the same. There was a hole in Mac that he couldn't fill. Not a big hole, just a teeny tiny little, a small hole just big enough to fit. And nobody finished his sentences. Mac had to find Will. He searched low, he searched high, and in between, in the dirt, around the watering hole, and just when he'd given up all hope, he looked up in the sky. Mac knew he'd rather be a bad apple with Will than a sad apple without him. "I was hoping I could help me turn the pages." "How did you know?" "Because you will always be a good apple in my book." Good and happy, and there's nothing bad about that. Be like Mac and be willing to make friends with different people, even when others may not agree.
Apples show up in stories, in the Bible, and even in this Mother Goose rhyme. If all the world were apple pie, and all the sea were ink, and all the trees were bread and cheese, what should we have to drink? In order to make that pretend apple pie that Mother Goose was referring to in the little Mother Goose rhyme we had, we have to first pick 10 apples, 8 to 10 apples. So let's count the number of apples that are on this tree right now and see if we have enough apples. So count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why, that's perfect. We need 8 apples for the apple pie. So we can pick all of these apples, all 8 of them off this tree, and we'll have enough to make our apple pie. Now there's a little more to counting than just that. You'll notice that each of these 3 trees I have here have numbers on them, and the numbers mean something. 3. So let's put 3 apples on this tree. 1, 2, 3. This tree has the number 4. We need to put 4 apples on that tree. Let's count those out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last tree has 10. Well, we're not going to do that one right now, but what I want you to think about, if you have something to count with, is think about how old you are. So you might be 7 years old. We'll count out 7 apples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 years old. Maybe you just want to practice counting. You want to see how high you can count. So you're just going to take your apples and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can count up as high as you can. If you run out of apples, you can make more apples. So these are just some things you can do with your apples. The other thing you could do is you could do some adding. So if I have 2 apples right here, and I want to add these 4 apples right here. So I've got my 2 here. I'm going to take the 4 off this tree. I'm going to line them all up, and now I'm going to count them all together. You can count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can also do, so 2 plus 4 is 6. You can also do some subtraction. I've got 6 apples. I'm going to take away 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I have, how many left? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 apples left. That's amazing. You can come up with all kinds of fun activities to do with apples, whether you're counting paper ones or real ones. Can apples float? Let's find out. I have a number of different apples here. We're going to start with this one. And I have a bowl of water, and I'm going to just simply place the apple in the water. Look, it is floating. All right, I'm going to leave that apple in the water, and I'm going to put a different kind of apple in, and we'll see if this apple floats. Here we go. I believe the apple is bobbing and it's still floating. It's not touching the bottom, so both of these apples can float. Well, this is the same kind of apple as one of these, but it's a little bit bigger and a little heavier. So let's see if this apple will float while the other ones are still floating. And when you're doing this at home first, before you plop it in the water, you could ask yourself, well, will it or won't it? And then put it in and see what happens, if you're right or wrong. Well, this one floats too. It's floating on its side, but it's still floating in the water. I think apples can float. I'm going to take these apples out, and we're going to try another thing with floating, just to change things up a little bit. Let's see if limes can also float. We don't put them in apple pie, but they are a fruit. Oh, look at that. I believe the lime is also floating. It's not floating as good as the apples, but it is still floating. So that's our apple experiment.
Thank you for joining us on our early learning adventure with apples today. Remember from our story to love others even if they are different from you. And know God created you just like He did apples. He loves you, is with you, and keeps you close to Him. Let's close with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. Amen. Psalm 17:8.